I've tried all the ways, I've done all the things, and I'm going to show you the easiest and most fabulous way to use black walnuts natural dyeing on your gorgeous yarn. You can over dye things in your stash, I'll show you. You can start with undyed, you can even dye pure silk. I'm going to show you the tips and tricks, and if you want, you can download a free tutorial step by step so you don't have to try to remember or make notes from the video. So the first thing that we're going to need is protein-based yarn or fiber. What we're going to do is it needs to be from an animal, so like a sheep, wool, alpaca, cashmere, things like that. Now, sock yarn can work with nylon in it as long as most of it does have that protein-based deal. I'm going to actually over dye this sock yarn because it's gorgeous, but it's just not speaking to me any longer. We're also going to do a pure silk, which is also technically a protein-based yarn. So these are the three that we're going to over dye. That's the first thing. Second thing, gloves, heavy duty gloves, non-negotiable, needed. Okay, I did one part of the process. This is from a week ago, and my thumb is orange. I poked one little thing once that I didn't think had any dye on it, and now I still have an orange thumb. Okay, wear the gloves, heavy duty. I'll link to all the good stuff down below too. So next thing we need is black walnuts and an old bucket. If you can get them where they're green, they almost look like little green apples, don't they? They're cute. The greener the better, and you want them right after they've fallen off the tree. For this experiment, we're going to try about 2 dozen. I think I've got 24 walnuts in there. Some old boots or yucky tennis shoes and really long socks, because let me tell you, everything stains. Also, old clothes. This is one of my cut up yarnpirate t-shirts. Wear old stuff because it's going to stain. You're going to need old shoes or old boots for my stomp method. It's the best way to do it, easiest. We're going to need a pot. Just get a cheapo pot, and this is just for dyeing. This isn't for your food. Save it for dyeing. A pot, a 99-cent cheapo spoon. This is going to be just for our process only. Some kind of a strainer, especially the kind that have the little extra that can sit across the top of a pot, and some cheesecloth. That'll make getting all the bits out a lot easier and less splashy. We're going to try 24 walnuts for the 3 100-gram skeins of yarn, and we'll just see what happens. Even if you're weighing out weight and every year and you record every detail, it's going to be a crapshoot every time you do this, just based on nature, how much dye is coming through. Every time is going to be different. So just enjoy and see what happens. All right, so my method, I'm only going to do 1 foot. We're going to go Lucille Ball version, like we're stomping on the grapes, but only 1 foot at a time so you don't fall over. Just work your way around. Get them all smashed up good. So here we go. We're going to be separating out. This is the magic. This right here is where all of the yummy stuff that starts golden, as it oxidizes, it turns to that dark brown. We want all of that. We don't want the walnut itself. That's going to get put aside. You can throw them out later for the squirrels or the critters. However, if you have dogs, I suggest you don't throw them in your yard, because the dogs will chomp them, eat them, and throw up, and it will stain. So basically this process, we're just tearing them all apart. If you didn't get it to where you can separate it out, ooh, and see when it starts turning really black inside, that's what's going to happen. We're going to love it. I kind of scrape off all that good black gold. Fabulous. This is what's going to make our dyes amazing. We're going to put this in the pot. We're going to cover it with water, probably, at least maybe 3 or 4 inches over it. We really want some room, and then we're going to let it soak. Some people say for 2 days. I've done that. I don't see any difference between that and just letting it soak like an hour before you start bringing it up to a low simmer or a low boil. So I've just got my pot on a hot plate. It has not been turned on yet. I'm going to cover it. I've covered it with about, it's maybe halfway full, probably 3 or 4, maybe 4 inches on top of where the husks were. And I'm going to cover it and let it set for an hour or 2. And then we'll be back. And then we're going to turn it on, raise the heat to get a mild boil going. And we're going to boil for about 2 hours. So we've got like a light rolling boil there. I'm going to give that a stir. And then we're going to let this, I don't want it at a hard boil. This is about as much as I'm going to want to boil. I'm going to turn it down just a little bit and then cover it and keep checking it. And we're going to let this thing boil, light boil, simmer for about 2 hours, and then turn off the heat, leave it sitting there covered for overnight. So here's the pot from yesterday. We're going to pour it. I've got my strainer again across the pot. Pour it slowly. Really don't want this stuff going fast. We're gonna strain it a couple of times. So the first one is to get the big parts out. Ugh, boy, it's fragrant. So we've got the sludges down in there, but that stuff has a lot of good dye. Some people come in and actually squish it out. I don't know that I'm that gung-ho. I might just give it a shimmy, shimmy, shake. A little push. So we're getting a little bit extra dye out of there. So we're going to get all of this out. Okay. So this is my second straining. I'm going from pot to pot, old yucky pot to old yucky pot. I've got my strainer going across. This time I'm going to put some cheesecloth down, like 2 layers of the cheesecloth to help further drain out the sludge of those walnut husks. And that'll just help us have less crud going in along with this gorgeous dye. So it's kind of like a filtering process. And we'll do a second time through. All right, so that's then at the end, gently help it through. And this really is just going to help you get rid of a lot more crud while getting that gorgeous, rich, natural dye. I'm going to add until the water is about 3 inches from the top. I want room for the yarn because I'm going to put 3 skeins of yarn in here. So I want that to have room to move around in here. So I'm going to add a couple more inches of water in here. And then I'll put it over a low to medium heat to start warming. At the meantime, I've got my yarn pre-soaking. And the next thing is going to be the fun of adding the yarn to the dye. So let's do some dyeing. I'm going to give the pot a little stir first, just to re-acclimate and get everything jazzing in there. So I've got my yarn. I'm going to give it a light squish. Whenever, even if it's super washable, we don't want to go ringing around on things. We just give it a squish. And then I like to soak the yarn while it's in the skein format. It's just easier and less messy, less tangly. I'm going to undo it, let it untwist. And then I like to give it a little shimmy, shimmy, shaky, shaky. And then I take the other end, I find the other end, and I do the same thing. What this is doing is, otherwise, if I put this into a dye pot the same way, a lot of the strands are just going to glom onto each other. They're wet, they're saturated, they want to just grab in there, and the dye doesn't get to have fun and party on all the strands. So I'm giving it a little shimmy shake. And then the way I like to do things, I'm just kind of letting it kind of set on top. It's going to saturate in. And then I give it a little pull up and down a couple of times. Not all the way. I don't want this dye coming over the top yet. And then I'm going to just kind of tuck him on the side and let him hang off. You don't want to do this very long because it will start sucking the dye out through the yarn and dripping more of it on your counter. But it's fine for what we're doing right here. All right, this is a skein. Again, squish, squish, not cranking. A good squish, squish. Okay? And I just kind of untuck the end and let it unravel. Shimmy, shimmy, shake. Get my other end. Whoop. Shimmy, shimmy, shake. I don't want to do a whole lot of twisting and shaking again because then that'll more tangle it. Again, same thing. I'm just going to lightly put it in. Let it kind of saturate itself down for a minute, a few seconds. Up, down, a couple of times, and park her on the side. Okay? The other one we're doing today is pure silk. 100% mulberry silk. I love the smell of wet silk. Woo! It's a party going on. I love the smell of wet silk as much as I love the smell of little babies that are clean. Clean little babies and pure silk. Some people don't love the smell of silk, just like some people really love the smell of wet wool. I don't mind it, but I don't love it. Pure silk. This is going to be fun. Again, just let it set on top. Now, silk has to soak at least 24 hours to fully saturate, or it will not absorb the dye. So even just now, it's kind of just hanging out on top of the water. and it's not even going all the way in. Even though it was wet, it's finally starting to. And then my last time, I can park it, I guess. The other guy, I'm just going to kind of drop, take up, drop, take up, and drop. And I'll show you, I'm trying to keep them, each one's in kind of their own area there. And then I'm going to take my spoon and just lightly push down in any of the strands that are up top. We're just tapping them in. We're not stirring. We're not making a mess at all. They're just going to hang out. So the temperature of the water was, I would say, just getting a little more than warm. It was about the same as the water that was soaking. I had it soaking in basically room temperature. The silk I had soaking since yesterday, and then I moved it into a little bit more warmer bath with the other two that I put in just a little bit ago. The other two were soaking for maybe an hour. So now this pot has been warming up on the hot plate, and it is at about, it's touchable, it's warmable, again, gloves. So I'm going to cover this and bring it up to probably medium-high heat for a little while, but I'm keeping an eye on it. I do not want this to boil. I do not want this to simmer. I want it to just be almost at the point where steam is rising from this. And so I'm going to monitor it, and it's probably going to take about an hour to get to that temperature. And then I'm going to turn it down to like a medium-low heat for another probably hour. So it's going to be on the heat for anywhere between 1 hour to 1.5 hours. Almost simmering, like I'm bringing it up to almost simmering. That'll take almost an hour to get there. And then once it's at that point, I'm going to go another 40 minutes. Let's say an hour and 40 minutes. So it's not at that heat the whole time. It is now starting out at warm, coming up to that heat. And then once it's at that heat for about 30 to 40 minutes, then I'm going to turn it off, leave it covered, let it set for another 24 hours. That lets this dye bath fully exhaust. And what that means is that every little particle of the dye that can possibly be absorbed by that yarn is going to be sucked in. So we're going to let it set. So we're cooking it. Then we're going to check it along the way. We're going to peek in under the lid, make sure it's not boiling, make sure the steam is just starting. And once that hits, we're going to take it down to a medium heat for about 30 to 40 minutes. And again, peeking in to make sure nothing is boiling and nothing is simmering. And I'm not stirring anything. This yarn is going to sit right where it's at. It's on a hot plate. You can do it on top of your stove as well. I do have my window open, and actually I have my big dye barn doors open, so it's no big deal to get airflow in here. You do want to have some airflow. The black walnut dye can be a little bit stinky, and it can be a little bit irritating, so you want to make sure and have some airflow. So have a window open, have a fan running. That's really all it takes. I'm so excited, you guys. Okay, it's the day after we've let this dye and the yarn in it set. All I'm going to do is squish out. I'm squeezing as much liquid as I can. Now, if in my world is easier because I have a spin dryer. I have a Panda spin dryer that I love. I dye a lot of yarn. It makes my life easier. For people that hand wash their own clothes, good luck with that. I'm not doing that. For people that do that, a spin dryer is a great way to go. You can use a salad spinner if you'd like to, or if you have an older washing machine that you can set on the spin cycle only. You do not want it going through a rinse or any kind of anything else. If you have a washing machine that will let you just put yarn in, set to spin only, what it's going to do is that centrifugal force is going to spin out the excess dye, excess liquid. If not, we can do this. You just got to squish it as much liquid as you can, straight squeezing, and then put it into your tub full of water with a little bit of either a wool wash soak, or I use hair conditioner that I just do a little tiny dollop and I rub my hands together under the running water. That's going to help too. But I'm going to put it in the spin dryer. So I'm going to squish out. For now, this is the pure silk yarn. And let's see what comes out next. So I actually have two pots. Ooh, this one's real dark. This one's gorgeous. At a glance, I can't quite tell. I think this one is the sock yarn, and it's way darker. Can you tell? It'll be different once it's dry, and we'll go through all the processes and show you that. But again, I'm just squishing out most of the liquid, not cranking, squish, squish. Going to toss that down into my spin dryer. And when I'm pulling the yarn out, I'm not pulling any strands. I'm trying to just lightly grasp and support the yarn. I don't want to pull out bits of it because then the pressure of the wet yarn. Oh yeah, this one's the worsted. Oh, it's a rich deep, dark, gorgeous brown with dark and light in there. I think it's going to be really pretty. So because I have the spin dryer, I just have to squish out a little bit of the liquid. This thing's going to do the work for me. I have another tub that I'm going to bring over here, spin out, and then we're going to soak it. I'm going to let it soak for maybe an hour in this room temperature water because that's the temperature that my yarn is at. We do not want to shock the fibers. Again, we don't shock the yarn. After that, I'm going to, again, if I don't have a spin dryer, which I do, if I don't have a salad spinner, whatever, a way to centrifugal, I'm just going to squish, squish, squish again. Check out my water. If my water is still brown and dirty and murky and dye, I'm going to do the process again. Fresh water, tiny touch of wool soak if I feel it, or a little bit of hair conditioner if I'd like, or just plain old room temperature water. Rinse and repeat. Hey guys, that water looks pretty clear. The true test is going to be once we take it out, we dump out all the yarn, we squish it out, we see what's left. But in the meantime, check it out. It looks pretty darn clear. Huh. Tell me it's a dye studio without telling me it's a dye studio. Next step, we're going to squish them out, rinse, spin them dry again, hang them dry, and then next step will be a dried, lovely skein. Want to see the results? It turned out so good, you guys. They're so yummy. Okay, not the purple one. That was one to show you what I overdyed. Look at the colors. Okay, so first of all, let's show the overdyed. So this one it's a perfectly lovely pastel purpley thing. But you know what? I bought it early on in my knitting world. It's probably like 10 years old. It just doesn't speak to me. And so I had two of them. I overdyed one just to see what would happen. And it's beautiful. There's light, there's dark. You don't see the purple, but because there was already some variation in here, this absorbed the black walnut dye in layers, and it's absolutely stunning. And now I can't wait to knit it. Isn't that gorgeous? So overdying, awesome. The pure silk is pure spectacular. Look at that. It's gorgeous. And it's so funny because that took the dye at such a lighter rate than the other guys, didn't it? It just is so interesting to see how the different fibers absorb the dye in the same dye pot. But this pure silk yarn is stunning, absolutely stunning. So remember, anytime you dye with silk, that needs to soak in water for at least 24 hours and get fully saturated to absorb. And yes, absorb this beautiful natural black walnut dye. It did. Isn't that beautiful? Whee! Okay, the next thing we did was we started with a undyed 100% superwash merino worsted wool yarn. And this is the result. And it is the darkest. I'm sure because the superwash merino is just sucking in all of that yummy dye. And as I fall over, isn't that beautiful? And again, it's got some real depth in there because we kettle dyed it. And just because of the nature of dyeing, that this yarn was soaking in that yummy natural dye, we didn't have to do any mordanting. We didn't have to add vinegar or citric acid because there's enough natural tannins in that dye in the black walnuts. And then my last one was a sock yarn that I had thrown in. And this also was undyed and started out as a cream. And it took it just a little bit lighter than the bigger one over here is the worsted, and this is the sock yarn that has 75-25, so 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon, and it's just a hint lighter. And to me, it almost looks a little bit orange, a little bit more orange in there. So I hope you enjoyed our little adventure of dyeing with natural dyeing with black walnuts. If you do this, let me know how it goes. I'd love to hear in the comments. Have you tried this before? Are you gonna try it? Don't forget that you can download down below in the description a free tutorial so you can just get the step-by-step. Thanks again, and come check us out, treasuregoddess.com.